Southwest Avenue. There's a homicidal guy, and he's shot my little cousin right now.
Okay, can you tell if there's anybody injured? Because we have fire department and officers en route.
Hello.
Hi.
Please come immediately.
Who's in your house?
Immediately.
Ma'am, is the guy in your house right now?
We're having 2 houses down on the cookie site.
Okay. Ma'am, hold on. Is he at your house?
Yes, he's shooting.
What do you think his name is, Bruce?
His name is Bruce Pardo.
Okay, and who is he to you guys?
Excuse me?
Who is he to you?
He's my ex-brother-in-law. They're going through a divorce right now.
Okay.
With my sister.
Hold on 1 second, okay?
I don't know who else is alive.
I know, ma'am. Just stay on the phone with me, okay?
My whole family, there's 30 people, 25 people.
I know. It's okay. The officers are there. They're trying to get to you guys, okay?
He came in through the entrance of the door, and there's a Santa Claus suit, and I didn't see from when he shot. I heard the shots, and they were like poppers, and I wasn't sure what it was, so everyone started panicking and running, so we all dove into the dining room. Some of us dove, and some of us left. I don't know. My mom's house is on the...
Ma'am, the fire department's there, okay? What's he wearing?
What is he wearing, please? What is he wearing? Please tell me. My nephew, what is he wearing now? He changed his clothes from Santa Claus clothes.
Okay, let me know what he's wearing.
Black clothes.
All black?
He's on neighbor stores.
Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
I'm Shannon.
I'm Gina.
We realized that we never introduced ourselves. So
we just assume you guys know who we are.
Yeah. We're close to the holidays.
We are.
So we thought we'd have a
Little
holiday.
some Christmas cheer.
Yeah. A little bit of a holiday story. It's not even a story. It's a true crime. It's sad. So just want to give our little warning
Disclaimer.
again. Yeah. Can you spill through that, please?
Yeah, this one also contains, murder. It has to do with children. It's a gruesome one too. We have a couple back to back that are going to be like this, but so if anybody is triggered by any of this, then
Are sensitive to it.
Probably isn't the episode for you to watch.
And just a disclaimer for me, sometimes when I'm uncomfortable, I giggle and stuff, or I'll So it's not paying any disrespect to the family or the victims. It's just
funny.
But and anger completely towards the people that commit these crimes. So it's a little disheartening, but I just wanted to lay that out there and stuff. So we're not trying to make light of any situation, but sometimes when you're uncomfortable with the situation, you kind of, do your thing, like giggle or something. So just wanted to let you know. So tonight's episode is on a man named Bruce Pardo. So
not a lovely human being.
No, not at all. So on December 24th of 2008, Bruce Pardo, he was 45 years old, and he was leaving his house in Montrose, California, wearing a Santa suit after doing some cocaine. So,
wow,
I know.
Sounds like a Merry Christmas.
I know. And so as he walked out of his house, he waved goodbye to his neighbor and told them that he was heading to a Christmas party. He was also scheduled to be an usher that night at midnight mass at the church he attended regularly. So he scheduled himself. So, he's leaving the house dressed up in a Santa suit. The neighbor noticed that he got into a car, but it wasn't his car. It wasn't the car that he had parked in the driveway. It wasn't the car he drove normally. It was a car that he had parked down the street. It was a blue Dodge Caliber. And he got into that car and he left. The Santa suit was actually custom made by one of his neighbors who owned a costume shop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was Jerry's Costumes or something like that.
And he just told his neighbor, I'm going to be Santa for the holidays or for a party.
He actually told him this months ahead of time, like in September. So the neighbor thought it was kind of strange that he was asking so soon, but the neighbor made costumes and he said, I need it for a Christmas party that I'm going to. So this is all the way in September. And we're flash forward to December 24th, Christmas Eve. That's supposed to be a happy holiday for families to get together, make memories and stuff. And so, but this is like, when I tell this story, if you premeditated, like this one was months in the making. like a sick human being to like not even talk them month after month. It's not like an impulse. It wasn't anything that he thought of on the whim.
Right.
This is like planning. And I'm going to let you know how this went about. So he asked his neighbor Jerry to make this costume. He gave a $200 deposit and he was going to pay the other $100 when he picked up the Santa suit. So he had asked for it to be specially tailored. He wanted it to have extra room for all the stuffing he was going to put in it because he wanted to be an extra plump Santa Claus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he also wanted like pockets on the inside and stuff to put all that stuffing into it. But little did we know that he wanted to carry something a little bit more sinister than just stuffing. So on the same day, his ex-wife, Sylvia, I hear Orzo, Ortiz, you know, but I'm just going to go by Ortega because that was her maiden name. That was her family's name. So Sylvia Ortega, she was 43 years old, and her 3 children were getting ready to gather at her parents' house on I'm going to say it wrong, but I hope I say it right, Knoll Crest Drive in Covina, where she moved back in with them after she was going through this bitter divorce with Bruce, the Santa man. She was there with her dad, Joseph. They called him Papa Joe. He was 80. Her mom, Alicia, who was 70. They hosted this annual event, which most families do on Christmas Eve, with all the kids, grandkids, aunts, uncles. There was about 25 people there. So they had their 5 children, who were Charles Ortega. He was 50. His wife, Cherry Ortega, 45. Joseph Ortega, Jr., and in some places I heard them refer to him as James, so that might have been the name they called him, 52. Teresa Ortega, 51, Joseph Jr.'s wife, and Leticia Yusef Polsky. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
That's a rough one.
I know. And Alicia Ortiz, 46, along with grandchildren, extended family, friends. And by this time, the party was in full swing. It was 11:30 p.m. There was approximately 25 guests in attendance.
That's crazy because most of those guests are our age.
I know.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. Like
yeah. Well,
now.
they're our age now. Yeah. Our age now, but back then, you know, a lot of life to still live. Like you're like right in the middle of, you know, it's that sweet spot, I want to say, where you already know what you want to be. You're already kind of doing it. You know, there's it's kind of just living life to the fullest right now, you know?
Yeah.
And they all had their children there and everything with them. So a little before 11:30 p.m. on December 24th, Bruce stood outside the Ortega family home. Some people did witness him and saw him there. He was standing there in the Santa suit. And at this time, the adults were all playing Texas Hold'em around the table. It was like an annual tradition. Most of the kids were in the back playing, you know, with the cousins and everything. There was one child upstairs, Michael Ortiz. He was playing video games upstairs. And at the time, it's sad because I think of all these kids and I think of what they're doing because I think of my own family, what we're doing at this time.
Yeah, you're just,
you know,
opening presents, hanging out with family, eating, playing games, having fun.
Yeah, maybe playing with the stuff that you just finished opening.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden the doorbell rang at around approximately 11:30. So Katrina, the daughter of Leticia Yosef Polsky, she went, you know, running towards the door. And it's unclear who opens the door, whether it was Katrina, whether it was an adult who opened the door. But we all know that Katrina saw Santa standing there. And she screams, "It's Santa." And Bruce proceeds to pull out a gun and shoot her in the face.
I didn't read. When I was listening to a podcast on this, they had said that some reports they read said that he actually picked her up before he shot her. When she opened the door, that he reached down, like, you know, like a Santa Claus would do, like picked him up, or like a family member, like, and picked her up and then put her back down on the floor and then shot her in the face. Yeah,
it's really unclear, like a lot of the stuff that happened right before, but we do know it's all, you know, it all leads back to this man who's dressed up as Santa goes to shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
And then he proceeds to open fire on all the attendees in the room that were playing Texas Hold'em. So who was at the table? It was, Joe Ortega, his wife Alicia, all the siblings with their spouses. So they proceed to dive under the table to take cover. One of the brothers, Charles, I believe, says, it's Bruce. They recognize him at this point. Even being shot, the two brothers tried to stop Bruce, unsuccessful due to their injuries. And they're like, it's going to sound bad how I'm going to say it, but they're like sitting ducks underneath the table where he's just spraying because the table can't protect you from a gun.
Yeah.
It happens in seconds.
I'm sure.
It doesn't take long for him to do that. And then he has a big package with him that he brought with him. He unwraps the package and takes out a flamethrower. It's a homemade flamethrower that he takes out, and he just starts spraying with this liquid that is racing car fuel. And you got to watch some of the YouTube videos on this racing car fluid or fuel. It's not the same as regular gas, but it's when it burns, you can't see the flames. It burns clear. So if you go on like some of the YouTube channels, because I wanted to check it out to see what it looks like, there's this one race car driver who caught on fire with it. His car caught on fire when they were doing the refueling and all that at the pit stop. And he's jumping around and people don't see it. They assume that the car's on fire, even though they don't see it. You see the guy hosing down the whole car to keep it safe, and they're hosing him down, and he's running around, and he goes to grab the fire extinguisher from the guy hosing down the car because he's like, I'm on fire. He starts to spray himself with the hose because nobody can see the flames on this thing. So it's just crazy, the stuff. But so they try to go after him. He does that. The kids are running out the back. They hear the gunshots. Neighbors around are hearing the gunshots. Some of the adults that weren't at the front playing, they proceeded to grab the children, run them out the backyard. They're throwing them over the wall. Their neighbors are like calling 911. There's multiple calls to 911 at this time. And within I want to say less than a minute, the whole house is engulfed in flames because of this fluid he threw. And also, when he threw the fluid, there was 2 fireplaces that actually created explosions because of the fuel and all the flame throwing fire, and all that flame threw back on Bruce, and melted his Santa suit. But at the same time, there was a 16-year-old who was shot in the back. A 20-year-old woman who ran upstairs to get away. She jumped out the house, broke an ankle. And then you have Katrina, who got shot in the face. Those were 3 of the survivors. At the end of it all, 9 people perished, either from gunshot wounds or from
the fire.
And
how many people survived? You said there's 25?
There was around 25 people. When they did the 911 call, you hear her say, there's 25 or 30 people in there, and she's all, please come, please help. One report stated that Letitia, after her daughter got shot, she ran, to grab her daughter, and she ran out with her daughter, and she was one of the people who called 911 from a neighbor's phone. So there's different, kind of different reports and stuff on it, but after he got burned, Bruce ran out the house. He dropped some fake glasses in the yard. He also lost his Santa hat in the yard. And he jumps into his Dodge Caliber, and he drives 30 miles to Sylmar, where his brother Brad lives. He was supposed to actually go out to a Christmas party with his brother Brad.
That night?
That night. So his brother Brad came to his house, tried calling him, wondering where he was. When Bruce didn't answer, Brad proceeded to go to the Christmas party on his own. So
his brother's off
I don't know.
Or?
There's a lot of things where I'm starting to think that he was putting alibis in place, so premeditated, because he signed up to be an usher at the church.
Right.
He made plans to go with his brother to a Christmas party. You know, none of those came to these conclusions, but I'm just kind of trying to speculate.
I mean, obviously we'll never know, but And you just wonder, like, did he really think he was going to get away with this?
I'm wondering if maybe he didn't get the burn, the blowback from all the fluid. I'm thinking he maybe thought he was going to try to get away with it.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he was setting up these little pieces or breadcrumbs to say, look, I wasn't there. This is where I was. Yeah. So by the time the firefighters got there, 80 firefighters came to fight this fire.
Of the house?
On the house. Around 85. And it took them an hour and a half to put it out. That's how intense the flames were because of this flamethrower and all the fluid.
Because again, like this podcast, you know, we go to.
We usually drive by.
We usually go to all the locations that we discuss or talk about. How this house is burned down completely.
The house burned down completely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not even the same house that's there at that address anymore. No, it completely burned down. The bodies were burned so far beyond recognition that, you know, of course, Letitia and family members knew who were missing, knew who were there. They knew they had perished.
Yeah, of course.
But it took days for them to identify them because they had to do dental medical records to identify the bodies of them. Within minutes, Bruce left 13 children orphaned and at least 2 other children with only one parent.
Jesus.
So out of the 5 siblings of Joe, Papa Joe, and Alicia, only one of them survived, and that was Letitia. So she lost her 4 brothers and her parents, her whole family, Jesus Christ, in one day, in just a matter of minutes. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. Like,
yeah, it's so hard to wrap your head around, like, when you hear these stories just about, especially somebody who has plotted this and planned this and put so much time and effort into making this all happen. And like you said, like, was he trying to like
spending money for it to happen,
make it like leave a trail so he had an alibi? And that like takes a lot of time. And like you said, he ordered that Santa suit in September.
Months. Yes.
So even if, I mean, and I don't even know what drives people to do this, but whatever he was upset about, like, you would have thought like maybe he had like a cooling down period at some point. I was like, oh, maybe this isn't the greatest idea. Maybe I need to rethink this.
Well, I think it's not so much as a cooling down period because things were escalating at this point. From September to December, he was going through this bitter divorce. So the divorce actually finalized a week before he did this.
But so, to just to take someone's whole family,
yeah,
like, my God,
I don't
know. I mean, even to take one person, just to take his wife or his ex-wife or whatever she was at the time, like, that in itself is just horrific and not ferocious.
Thank you.
It's ferocious.
Thank you.
But
telling you, it's going to be in the dictionary by next year.
To try to take out 25 people, you know, like,
yeah.
And he clearly knew that there was going to be a lot of people there.
Absolutely.
You know, you went there dressed like you were for a reason, knowing that there was not going to be family there, but there was going to be children.
Yeah, he knew the family well enough. Yeah. He dated her. He met her, you know, I'm going to get into when he met and how long they dated, but yeah, I mean, he knew the family. He probably spent a few Christmases there already, 2 to 3. So, he probably already knew, who all was going to be there. Everything that was taking place. It takes a special kind of person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
So I'm going to get a little into the background of Bruce, just to give you. So Bruce Jeffrey Pardo was born on March 23rd, 1963 in Los Angeles County. He grew up in the San Fernando Valley, which is outside of Los Angeles, if anybody knows. No, it's probably a good 30-minute drive. By all accounts, he was described as a pretty bright kid. A lot of people liked him. He was described as funny, had a good sense of humor, smart. His dad was an engineer. So, of course, he went on to do the same thing his dad did. He graduated high school in 1981 from Sun Valley's Polytechnic High School and excelled at Cal State Northridge. After graduation, he got a job as a software engineer at JPL. It's a Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Well, that's what it stands for, JPL, yeah. Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He was obsessed with money. He was always comparing himself with other people, with how much money they make. He just, you know, that's what was worth. Like, that's how he calculated where people were at, or how, I don't know what that word would
by
be,
how
but
much money they were
by how much money they were worth. And he was always comparing himself to others. Even though he had a great job, though, he was not the ideal employee. I mean, for him to get through school to be an engineer, a software engineer, that's tough. But he liked to play more than he liked to work. So he would frequently call off to go on ski trips with his buddies. And so while he was working there at JPL, obsession with money, he started looking up his coworkers' salaries and stuff. He was able to hack into the computer system. He wanted to compare himself with his other coworkers and see how much people were making, and finding out their personal information and finding stuff out about them.
That's creepy.
So
that's creepy.
He was fired from that job. But while working there, he met a young lady by the name of Delia. And she was a fellow employee. But he was only 24 at this time. This is a 24-year-old.
Oh my
as
God.
a software engineer. I know.
Well, Jasmine's 24.
I know.
She just graduated.
That's right.
So not a software engineer, civil engineer.
But still, I mean,
no, it's a lot.
It's impressive.
Yeah,
right?
it's
schooling.
A lot. But again, like, you think at 24, that's so young.
They're so young, and to have that much money and
to have that
stuff
like that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, and so he lived with his mother at the time, and he was young, but he ended up being with Delia long enough. He ended up proposing to her. So he's making the commitment to get married to her, but he didn't want to pay for the wedding. He didn't want to put any money towards the honeymoon, the wedding, the reception. He actually talked her into using her savings, and she was fine with that because she thought, okay, we're going to have a joint bank account. We're going to, you know, when you're starting with somebody, you think
young and dumb.
They're young. Yeah. So he convinces her to use her savings to pay for the caterer, the venue, the entire wedding, their honeymoon to Tahiti.
Oh my God.
Along with inviting 250 guests. So she paid for this. So on June 17, 1989, she's there at this venue, standing at the altar. Bruce never shows up. Does not come to the wedding at all.
Sorry, that's not funny.
I know.
But
It's not. He's an asshole. I mean, I just don't even know how to describe it.
You just
and
did.
not only
That's
did
like...
that, I know. Not only that, not only did he not show up, he ends up taking $3,000 out of their savings and takes off to Palm Springs to go have a good time. So
he didn't show up to his own wedding.
Palm Springs, Florida. I don't want to, actually, I'm going to take that back because we're in California, so we have a Palm Springs, California. Okay. But he actually takes off to Palm Springs, Florida.
I didn't know there was a Palm Springs.
I know, I didn't know either, and I wanted to make sure. I'm like, I kept picturing Palm Springs, California.
So he didn't show up at his own wedding, but then whose money did he take? Is that
from their joint bank account? Wow. She doesn't find that out until after the fact, where he went. That he ended up taking out $3,000.
This guy's a piece of work.
Yeah. So needless to say, she calls off everything. She calls off the engagement. You know, he couldn't seem to hold on to any relationship. At this time, he's 24. So let's fast forward. He's in his late 30s. And he meets a woman named Elena Lucano. I wanted to make sure I got her last name right. Even though they did not get married, because like they said, by all accounts, people described him as funny, having a good time. He had a great personality, very charming.
Well, here's the thing, too. When you look back at
Ted
Bundy, you know, he was a very good-looking, charming man. That's how he did what he did. You know, that's how he got away with, you know, luring all these women.
I look at pictures of Bruce, and me myself would not describe him as a good-looking man.
I don't even know what he looks like. Not good-looking? Okay.
Let me just hold this up for Gina to see, but I'm sure I have a picture of him. Oh, you know what? I have it in my other paper that I didn't bring over here. But yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, he would be, he's someone's type. He's not a bad-looking guy, but it's not like I mean, that wouldn't be me. But, yeah. You know, but along with the charm,
that's what I was
along with the sense of humor.
Sometimes people can charm your pants off, you know, like
you don't have to be the best looking guy.
You don't. And when people are charming and if they're around you enough, then you start to, you know, really love their personality. And so I could see, you know, how things like this would happen.
And he made good money. He was a software engineer. He ended up
and I'm
getting
sure
a job.
Some women just see dollar signs too.
Yeah. I mean, he was working as a software engineer, so obviously he was making good money.
Yeah.
So he meets her, they move in together, and they have a son together, Matthew. So in 2001, when Matthew was only 13 months old, Elena decides she's going to go run errands and go to the grocery store. When she's gone, Bruce is supposed to be watching Matthew, who's 13 months old. And Matthew, he ends up turning on the TV, watching the TV, and
this is going to go bad, isn't it? I don't know this part of the story.
Matthew ends up falling into the swimming pool. So by the time Elena comes back from her errands, he's sitting there holding.
Is this another Casey
Screaming?
Sorry. No, sorry.
It's like, no, he ends up being there holding the baby, and he's screaming, but he's not performing CPR on the baby.
Wait, who's screaming?
Bruce. Bruce is screaming.
The baby's dead.
The baby's blue.
Oh,
he's not dead. Well, by all accounts, he might have been declared, but they end up, they end up jumping into the car, rushing him to the hospital. The hospital's performing life-saving measures on him. They end up getting him stable enough to fly him to a children's hospital, and they end up putting him on a ventilator, keeping him alive. And for the next week, Bruce does not leave his son's side. So you're listening to the story and you're hearing like, well, he's a very loving father.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to leave his son's side.
Accidents happen.
Yeah. He has all this guilt and this grief. And a week later, the doctors come in, tell him, we're sorry, but your son is never going to walk again. He's going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He's got a lot of issues, brain damage, because of the amount of time that the oxygen was into the brain. And at that point, Bruce checks out. I don't know if it's because, he feels so much guilt, he can't bear to look at his son, or what it is, but him and Elena end up separating after 6 months. They end up breaking up, and the bills rack up to about $300,000 in the first year, over $300,000 in the first year. He doesn't pay a dime towards it. She ends up having to take him, and she doesn't want to sue him. Elena sounds like a saint. I'm sorry, but she doesn't blame him at all. She doesn't want to go after him personally, so she goes after his homeowner's insurance. So at the max she can get is $100,000. She ends up paying some of the bills with that and end up putting the rest in the trust fund, where she would get only $240 a month to pay for medical bills, which does not cover it. Yeah, and this boy's lifetime of care. Yeah, lifetime of care. So after that, Bruce actually refuses to acknowledge he even has a son. Doesn't tell anybody he has a son. New people he meets that doesn't know, he doesn't even share it with them. He pretends like they don't even exist.
So he's not visiting him or anything. Like,
nothing.
He's just done.
Nothing. His mother, Nancy, on the other hand, and a little bit about Nancy, she has a lot of disappointment in her son. She's disappointed that he's not getting married, that he's not having a relationship. And then at this point, she's disappointed.
Really disappointed now.
At this point, I tried to find out where she is now, and she'd be around 86 years old. And I don't know. I don't know if she's still with us, if she's passed on, or anything about her after this all happened. But I know his mom still stayed in touch with Elena, tried to help out as much as she can and stuff. And she tried to keep in contact with her grandson, but Bruce had nothing to do with her. So, fast forward to 2004, because this happened in 2001, a coworker introduced Bruce to Sylvia Ortega. And although Sylvia had 3 children, he never even mentions Matthew. Because you would think like that's something we have in common. You have 3 kids? Oh, I have a son, Matthew. Yeah. Never even mentions to her.
Because I'm sure she's probably going to be like, oh, can I meet him?
Yeah. Or anything. Like, but why would you not?
Where does he live?
Yeah. What's going on?
But when do you visit him? Can we hang out? Can our kids do stuff together? Thank you. Hello, that's what couples do, right?
So he says nothing. And she seems, one of her friends that they interviewed said that she was really smitten with him. That's the word she used. She thought he was good looking and was attracted to his sense of humor.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, they get you with that.
Yeah.
So they dated for 2 years, and on January 29, 2006, they married and moved into the home in Montrose, California. They attended church regularly. That's the church that he had signed up to be an usher that evening. They got a dog together, a big brown Akita named Saki, and Bruce loved him. Like, neighbors would say that he would walk the dog all the time and everything. Sylvia worked for a company in El Monte, and she brought in only about $31,000 a year. But at this time, Bruce was making $122,000 a year.
And this was in what year? 2006?
2006.
Yeah.
And he was working as a software engineer for ITT Electronic Systems Radar.
Oh, okay.
And in 2 years, they managed to save up $88,500.
Oh.
But Bruce would not have a joint account with Sylvia. Refused to share an account, refused to put any money towards her 3 children. Even though they said that he treated them well, but some of the accounts that I read, some of the kids said that no, or, the fathers of the other kids said like, no, they didn't really like Bruce. But for the most part, he didn't, he treated them well, but he refused to pay for anything for them.
Wow.
Refused to have put any money towards them. This is a guy, like I said, that's all he cared about was money.
Yeah, but like you marry somebody, like those are your kids now.
Yeah, they're your children.
In every
you take care of them.
Yeah.
No, she had to pay for anything that went towards the kids was her responsibility. He didn't want to share any of his money with her or the kids.
I wonder if he was. Does it say like was he like poor growing up? Like were they hard off or?
No, his dad was an engineer.
But I mean, was he like?
They didn't say anything about that. I don't know
what makes people like so money hungry like that.
Yeah.
Like
so afraid to share money.
Yeah, because that just ruins people. Like it's a truth. I feel like money ruins people.
It does. It gets you in a lot of arguments.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, during this time that they were having these arguments about her wanting to open up the joint bank account, all that stuff, she ends up going through some papers, and I don't want to make it sound like she was snooping, but you live with somebody, you go through papers, you look at things, and she came across one of his tax returns, and she noticed that she was claiming a dependent by the name of Matthew.
He was?
He was claiming his son, Matthew, on tax forms. So at first he denies it. Like he's absolutely like, nope, you didn't see the right thing, whatever. It's like right there on paper. I don't know how you deny something like that. But she ends up getting confirmation from Nancy, Bruce's mother, that yes, he does have a son.
That he doesn't see and he doesn't pay for. How could that mom let that happen?
As far as I know, Elena had no clue he was claiming Bruce as a dependent. I mean, that Bruce was claiming Matthew as a dependent. Elena had no idea that this was happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
God.
So, and Nancy was feeling guilty because she was growing closer and closer to Sylvia. So when Sylvia approached her, when they talked about it, she said, yeah, he does have a son. So at this point, Bruce feels like his mother betrayed him too, because after that, it just went really downhill. Like if it wasn't bad before their marriage, it's bad now. Yeah. She's sleeping in a separate room. She's visiting her parents every weekend. She's staying with them on the weekends. And all she asked from him, because she knew that, they were going to go through a divorce. This was around the holidays again, in 2007. She knew they were going to go through this divorce, but she said, can we please just be amicable?
Yeah.
She had a daughter that was attending school in the area, just so she can finish out the school year. And then, we'll move out and we'll figure everything out. And one weekend she goes to her parents' house. She comes home. All her stuff and all her kids' stuff are on the driveway. So she takes it and she leaves. He does try. He does make one attempt to reconcile with her, but she won't have it. Yeah, she's like, no. Yeah, absolutely not. Sorry. She already moved. She moved back in with her parents in Covina. Yeah. And she's just like, no. So that was it for her. So she files for divorce. And in the divorce, she asked for attorney fees, $3,160 a month in spousal support. And she also claimed that Bruce was slowly draining that $88,000.
Sure.
Slowly bringing it over.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Trying to hide it.
Yeah, of course.
Don't make big withdrawals,
little
but
ones, yeah.
Trying to transfer it to a private account. So she wants that stopped. So, as this happens in February when she starts filing for the divorce, but by July, Bruce had lost his job at ITT at the at his company, and so because get this, he was claiming fraudulent hours through this company.
Good Lord.
He gets fired. He wants to claim unemployment. So, of course, he's denied unemployment. So in the fall, when they go back to court, he tells the court, like, look, I don't have a job. I want her to pay me now spousal support.
Oh, okay, Bruce.
Until I can find employment. He complained that his monthly expenses exceeded $8,000. But instead the court saw through his bullshit, I guess. They awarded her $1,785 a month. They lowered it, you know.
Yeah.
Plus he had to pay $3,500 for the past payments he wasn't even making.
But he don't even have a damn job.
He doesn't have a job, yeah. I don't know how they came up with this, or maybe, you know, they don't say that he had a job after this. They don't say that he was working after this. I don't know where he was getting his money from, but he did have the $88,000, and he got to keep the house. So as we go on, we'll see what he got to keep. He got to keep, but he was upset. He was pissed off that you're awarding her spousal support. So he came back and said, wait a second. She's living at her parents' house. She goes on these lavish vacations, gambling trips to Las Vegas. She's got a luxury vehicle. You know, he's making all these complaints about it. Like, why am I going to pay her all this? I'm struggling over here.
Right.
I got all this debt. I got a mortgage I have to pay. I have no job. And she's over here living with her parents, you know, and you want me to pay her all this money so she can go spend it on massages, gambling, you know. So this is what's pissing him off. I'm just leading you up to, like, you know, kind of what's pissing him off. So when the divorce was finalized on December 18, 2008, the judge ended up ordering Bruce. He said, you know what? It's fine. You know, you pay $10,000 for the back. You keep the house. Because this house, I forgot to mention that he had owned previous to the marriage. He purchased it.
Okay.
So she moved into his home.
That makes sense.
So he got to keep the house, but he needed to pay her $10,000 for all the past amounts that he hadn't paid, or whatever the reason, you know, for that.
Yeah.
And but she was going to keep the wedding ring and the dog.
Oh, yes.
Sent him over the edge.
I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, and I do have the divorce settlement right here with it.
Oh, his papers.
The actual paperwork that got filed in Los Angeles Superior Court. But it seemed like she was kind of agreeing to some of the stuff too. By this point, I think at this point, she just wants it over.
Divorce. Yeah.
She just wants it over.
Yeah. Stop beating around the bush.
Yeah. So I gave you a little taste of what was leading up to why he was so pissed off. You know, what was happening, what was going through his brain,
Which
why he
just
was getting
shows
so
what
angry.
A narcissist he is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For someone to do this to begin with, to kill off your whole entire family,
but just to be upset, like, you don't have a job because of your own doing.
Exactly.
So
yeah, no one told you to bill for fraudulent hours.
Yeah, that's not. And then you get fired from another job for being a creep.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, like, you did this to yourself. So
yeah, you can't hold a job because of you, not because of anybody else around you and what they're doing.
Have nothing to do with.
Yeah. So police want to say, you know, believed he'd been planning this attack for months, but it doesn't take, you know, Sherlock Holmes to figure that one out, because this is what happened. So in June, after she filed and after she was awarded, I believe it was when they went to court, you know, when she was awarded the $1,600, things like that. In June 2008, Bruce bought the first 9mm gun. In California, you cannot purchase two guns within a 30-day period. Yeah. You have a 30-day waiting period. So he brought his first one. He purchased his second one August 8th. So he has June 2008. August 8th, he purchased another 9mm handgun. September 8th, another 9mm handgun.
Wow, he's doing like exactly 30 days.
Then on October 11th, he purchased his fourth handgun. So shortly after his fourth purchase, he flew out to go see a friend who lives in Iowa. It's an old friend of his who was celebrating his 45th birthday. His name is Steve Irwin. not the crocodile hunter.
I was like, oh, okay.
No, not the crocodile hunter. But while there, he confided in Steve that he was embarrassed by his divorce. He's embarrassed that it's actually on paper, that he's lost his job, how much money she's asking for. You know, he just feels like his dirty laundry's all out there. So he's very, very upset. And then he says something to the effect that she's taking me to the cleaners, you know, that all these things are happening. And of course, it's all poor Bruce, you know, whatever. So, and he was also saying to his friend that he was upset with his mother because anytime they went to the divorce court or the proceedings, his mom would sit on Sylvia's side of the court.
Kind of can't blame her at this point.
Yeah. So in November, that's when Bruce picked up his Santa suit that he ordered back in September from Jerry. He paid the remaining balance on the suit. And then on November 13th, he purchased his 5th firearm. He also
just came in strapped.
Yeah, no, he was prepared. He also acquired a DeWalt compressor, a 50-foot hose, and a tank of high-octane fuel. And later it would be discovered that he used that for that homemade flamethrower, you know, that he brought in. So after December 18th, Bruce went to Montrose Travel Agency and booked a plane ticket to Iowa. It's actually a plane ticket to Illinois. It was like Moline, Illinois, but I guess that's close to where his friend lives, so he can visit his friend in Iowa. He called his friend Steve and told him he'd be visiting over the holidays. Steve thought it was a little weird because he had just seen him, but he thought, okay, Bruce is going through this divorce. He's really upset. He needs friends. You know what I mean? Like he's really not getting along with his mom right now, you know? So, okay, yeah, come over for the holidays, spend it with my family. And so he booked it he paid $650 for a plane ticket at 12:20 a.m. on Christmas Day. So I want to look at the timeline a little bit. So
that was after he murdered everybody.
So 11, but it goes to show you, like, I think he was never going to get on that plane. Run? There's no way he would have made that plane trip. That plane, because he didn't show up to the family house till 11:30. That's when you're boarding the plane by that point.
Yeah.
You know, any of us who fly, we're already at the airport at that point and we're boarding. So no matter which airport you're going to, you know, because to make it to Covina, to any airport, and I believe, I did not actually look up which airport.
Wait,
I'm going to assume LAX, but.
He bought the ticket that day? Or that's when he was supposed to, he bought it previous. But
after his divorce. The day after his divorce.
But that's when
he went to the travel agency.
To go.
He booked it for the 25th at 12:20. So already right there, to me, I'm like, he was never going to get on that plane. If he's not showing up to his in-laws house till 11:30, he had no plans to get on that plane, but he wanted people to believe he was on that plane.
Yeah.
I was on a plane. I was in the airport. I went on.
Yeah.
I was going to go visit my friend.
Goes to show you where his mind was, because how easy would that have been to prove
to find out
he wasn't on that plane?
Even if he drove all night to get to his friend's house, which probably take 2 to 3 days, 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, 2 whole days nonstop, probably. You still would not you can't account for it. Yeah. So I just think he was doing these little things to throw off the police, you know? And then Bruce rented 2 vehicles, a Dodge Caliber. That's the one that the neighbor saw him getting into. And he rented a silver RAV4. It said from Rent-A-Wreck. I never even heard it.
Rent-A-Wreck?
Yeah, I had to look it up today. I was like, Rent-A-Wreck. I'm like, looked it up. I'm like, there's a place called Rent-A-Wreck.
Okay. I mean, most cars that you rent are wrecks. So.
It was funny. I was like, is that really a place? The first one was from Budget, and then the second one was for Rent-A-Wreck. He loaded up the RAV4 with maps of the southwestern United States, as well as water, food, clothing, a tank of gas, a laptop, and a desktop computer. So I don't know if he was going to jump from car to car and then take off, you know?
Yeah, maybe when he thought like, oh, I'll just drive this Caliber until they realize
that's the one they're going to look for.
Yeah, so then I'll dump this one along the way and I'll be in something else with everything that I'm going to need.
Yes. And then they also thought, well, maybe he was going to flee to Canada because that's close to Iowa. Mm-hmm. But I don't even think he was going to make it there. Like, I don't know what his plans were. I feel like he's just trying to throw a bunch of breadcrumbs. He
didn't know what his plans were going to be.
No, but definitely by being burned, changed everything, you know, when he got burned. So the evening of the massacre, after Bruce flees the scene to his brother's house in Silmar, he's, trying to take off the Santa suit. He's peeling skin with it because it's melted onto, the polyester it's melted into his skin. He's got 3rd-degree burns.
Not so smart, Bruce.
No. He puts all the stuff into a pile on the side of his car, the passenger seat, and he actually booby traps it. So he booby traps it under, he puts, tripwire. That's what I wanted to say. So that if you moved it, it would ignite and explode. So he did, he does the car. Oh. So if anybody tries to move the Santa suit, the whole car is going to blow up. So he parks the car, puts it there, goes inside his brother's house, and he ends up putting a gun to the roof of his mouth and takes a shot and kills himself. So he was found with over 200 rounds of ammunition.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. I want to read to you, and this one, only because this one is actually the investigator's narrative of exactly what they found when they found him.
Did somebody, did the car get blown up?
No. What happened was, his brother comes home at 3:10 from his party, 3:10 a.m., and he's the one his brother Brad is the one who calls 911.
Oh, okay.
So the cops come to the scene. At this point, they have a feeling they're already looking for him because in the 911 calls, they're saying, one of them says it's my ex-brother-in-law, Bruce, or it's Bruce Pardo. It's Bruce Pardo. So they already kind of know who they were looking for. They already knew the car they were kind of looking for, the Dodge Caliber.
Right.
So right here it says, and I'm going to say this wrong, and you might need to correct me. How do you say the deceased? They write the descendant. In the notes, they're writing the descendant. So I guess that means the same thing, right? The descendant had gone through a bitter divorce and had gone to a location in the city of Covina dressed as Santa Claus and reportedly shot several people and ignited that location on fire. He was then discovered by his brother, Brad Pardo, in Brad's residence when Brad returned home about 3:10 hours on 12/25/2008. 911 was called with LAFD paramedics responding and pronouncing death at 3:20 hours on 12/25/2008. One gun had been in the descendant's lap and a second in his hand, unknown which. Both had been moved to the table by the descendant's brother at the direction of the 911 operator. An apparent suicide death gunshot wound to the head, no note. Covina police detectives are handling this investigation. They found 2 handguns, magazine, and rounds were recovered at the scene and released to Covina PD detectives. And scene description. The scene is a single-family residence. The descendant is seated on the living room couch. There are 2 handguns on the table in front of him. A flashlight next to the descendant was dropped there by the descendant's brother. There is an apparent bullet hole in the ceiling above the descendant. There is damage to the wall behind the descendant. The residence is furnished and neat. When the descendant was moved, there was a projectile recovered beneath him, which was recovered by Covina PD detectives. A spent casing had been recovered prior to my arrival on the couch by the descendant's buttocks, and a second casing was located during my investigation under the descendant's right arm and collected by Covina detectives. And this I wanted to let you know what was there. So he was wearing a black thermal t-shirt, black belt, black pants, green boxer style underpants, girdle with hard cup, black socks, and black shoes. I say that because he had, during the body examination, a stack of money wrapped in clear plastic was found by the left calf with additional package of money also wrapped in the plastic in the girdle, along with a wig and handcuff key with clear tape on it. So he had a wig with him too. And that's the first time I ever heard about a wig, is when I was reading this. Yeah.
A girdle?
Yeah. He had a girdle. He also had remnants of the Santa suit around his left ankle, ankle, and remnants of red material on his remaining clothing. There is a watch on the left wrist and a ring on the left ring finger. His pants, it just says what they contain. There are burns, blistering, and skin slippage on the hands and forearms from the third-degree arms. Yeah, from the third-degree burns. There is hair on the right hand stuck to the burns. It's just...
How much money did he have strapped to him?
$17,000. So I think he was planning on getting away.
He was going to disguise himself as a woman.
He had a wig. I don't know what kind of wig. It doesn't say long hair, short hair. It doesn't say what kind of wig, but he had a wig.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was something I hadn't read or heard about previously.
I wasn't real familiar with this case.
Yeah. No. And so back to the car. So the police called the bomb squad, the police and the fire department. They had the bomb squad go there.
Why?
Because they looked inside the car and they saw the wire.
Oh, they saw the
and they were
wire.
suspicious
Okay.
of it. So they wanted to call them in to make sure. It's unclear. Some reports said that the bomb squad set it off on purpose. Others say, like, as they were exploring it, it set
detonated?
off. It detonated. So
Nobody got hurt?
nobody got hurt. No one got hurt. And so they put out an APB because another car dealer, the one that the rent-a-wreck, the car was supposed to be returned. So a few days later, this car's not returned.
Oh.
So they have an APB out on this car vehicle with the license number on the RAV4.
Yeah.
And they end up finding it off Glen Oaks Boulevard in Glendale.
Oh, wow.
And what's really important about that, or to note about it, is that it was actually near Sylvia's divorce attorney's home. So they think that...
Is he going to kill him too?
They think that he was going to, if he hadn't had those burns, that he was going to leave there, go there, and have that other vehicle to take off.
Take off from there.
To take off.
Lord.
They also believe that he was going to go after his mother as well and kill her as well.
His own mother?
His own mother. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. They believe that he had plans because she sided with him.
Yeah, because you said he felt betrayed by her.
Yeah. And so after all this, when they found the money and everything, Bruce's mother actually came out and said, I don't want anything. I want anything that he has, any of his estate. And at the time, she had lost her home in a fire. And she was living, she didn't even have her own. And she was like, I don't want anything. I don't want anything from him. I want all that money to go into a fund for the children of Sylvia's children. Yeah. And, to take care of them. And
what about his own son that he never took care of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's really, really, really sad case. So, I just want to touch on where are they now, I wanted to look up, a little bit what's going on with it. So after the incident, of course, the Ortega family, they'd never been the same. But they still, I saw some interviews and stuff. Thanks to Letitia, the sister, she's tried to make Christmas Eve happy for the kids. I was going to
say, how do you celebrate the holidays after that?
It's hard. And they said that it was really, really hard, but she's trying to make new memories with the kids because for a while there, these young kids, they saw Santa and shoot their family.
Exactly.
Like what does that do to your brain?
Yeah. How do you come back from that?
They said that these kids went to therapy for a year.
Sure.
They had
for the rest of their whole life.
Yeah. Therapy, that they they had to get the kids, convince the kids that it was not Santa that came in. Yeah. It wasn't Santa. It was Bruce. It was a bad man. Yeah. To make that connection, like what's going on? Santa's shooting my whole family and killed my whole family, I
can't imagine. And all those kids left and parents are gone.
And their parents never came out of the house completely. Yeah. It's devastating. And I read somewhere that Letitia did take one of her nieces. She her daughter Katrina, she recovered from the gunshot wound to the face. And, but now, what they do is that, Katrina, she advocates for gun violence. So, when the Parkland, shootings happened, she was attending LaSalle High School. Oh, and she did, a walkout. She was one of the people that did a silent walkout, and she talks about gun violence. She advocates for tougher gun, laws. She just says that, all thanks to her mom and her mom's, the way her mom approached it and raised them after this incident and just making Christmas positive. She says that they celebrate it. They do have a really good time celebrating it, being with family.
But
it just,
God,
they turned it into something positive.
Hard.
Yeah. Of course they remember their family and friends, but
of course
that they lost or their family, but
my God.
And so she has tried to teach girls not to give power to their family's killer, to continue celebrating Christmas and to associate Santa with good things, and to honor their loved ones by living life with purpose.
Good for them.
Yeah. And Katrina actually says, and I want to end it with this. I know my family, my angels, are here watching me. They're seeing I'm finally going to make a difference and stand up for something. I'm going to cry. Stand up for something that needs to be changed. I'm fighting for them. So,
more power to her.
Yeah.
And that whole family.
They're really trying to make a difference out there.
I mean, it's a horrific crime no matter what time of the year. But when you involve children and you associate something like Santa Claus, like, this guy was just twisted.
And the holidays.
Just twisted because, I mean, that's what kids look forward to all year long. You know, like it's. Yeah.
I was reading too that the movie Bad Santa, where he goes in with the flamethrower, it's loosely based on the incident. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's just, I don't know.
That was a doozy.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. And on that note, we hope you guys all have a Merry Christmas.
Spend time with your loved ones.
Spend time with your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man.
But happy holidays. I hope everybody has a good one. And
this will be out a few days before Christmas. So hopefully you guys all have happy, healthy Christmas, and
we'll be back with
a
New Year's Eve doozy.
Sorry, yeah, we'll get you for New Year's Eve too. So
I know. I finally turned to look at me right there, and I'm like, I'm all red on the computer. I'm like that because that one was that one breaks my heart. But
it's.
And there was one minor that passed away. It was Michael, the one upstairs Michael
from the fire though.
From
right?
the fire,
he wasn't shot.
He was no from probably from the explosion. They're assuming that he couldn't get out.
Oh man.
So.
Man, well,
but so
the best to all of those people that survived, because to try to pick up and carry on after something like that,
it'll live with you forever.
And then to have to get kids through something like that is not a good time. Well, on that note, we hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and we'll be back next week.
I'm Shannon. That's Gina.
Yeah, that was funny that she just said to me, and it's funny because somebody, and I don't remember who, a couple weeks ago was like, you never say your name. And I guess we assume, because in our like little intro that we have, we do that. We like say our name and we say, like how we met, and we give like a little rundown or whatever. So I guess we're just assuming that everybody has watched that video.
Yes.
But if you haven't, I'm Gina.
Yeah. That's funny.
And that's Shannon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
And they can follow us.
Yeah. They can follow us on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, 50 States of Madness. Yeah. And thank you a whole lot to all of our Patreons.
Absolutely.
That are supporting us. And if you'd like to support us on Patreon, we're also on there at 50 States of Madness and all podcast platforms.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and our website too. We're updating our website.
Yes,
pretty soon. Hopefully, we try to. It's a lot.
Yeah,
but yeah, we do have a website, which our merch will be available on there eventually. So,
thank you so much.
Right.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Happy holidays. Bye.